Welcome back to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Shakras, and in today's video, I'm bringing you yet another interesting, affordable digital piano. This one coming in at right about $400 US. Now, what makes this different from every other digital piano I have reviewed thus far is this. Every other piano I've reviewed thus far has been purchased with my own money, with the exception of one in the past, which was the Kawai MP11 SE, loaned to me by a piano store, Kim's Pianos, in Stanton, California. Everything else that you've seen featured on the channel until today has been purchased with my own money. Except for this one. This one was actually sent to me by Inovus, which is pretty interesting. However, the reason I'm here making a video about it is because they sent it to me under the terms and conditions that I would do my usual honest review, regardless of whether or not I liked it or not. Fortunately for Inovus, there's actually quite a few redeeming qualities about this instrument despite its low price. So in today's video, we're going to be checking out those redeeming qualities and seeing whether or not the Inovus i88 is something that you should or should not buy. For starters, the name, Inovus. How do you pronounce it? Well, in every video I've seen of it online, people pronounce it Inovus, with a couple people here and there saying Inovus. Because there's only one N in the name, I think it would be pronounced Inovus and not Inovus, because innovation has two N's and this has one N, so I think it would be pronounced Inovus. But I'm not a grammatical expert by any means, so if you guys think it should be pronounced Inovus, let me know, and in the next video I make of this instrument, I will pronounce it Inovus, however you guys want me to say it. Now, I do plan on making at least one more video of this instrument, because I have come to a really fascinating revelation that I believe is going to be true about this in comparison to the Donner DEP-20, which is a similarly priced, although slightly more affordable instrument. In the same sub $400 price category. Now, there's going to be a lot to go over in that video, so it's going to be a lot to tackle. But if you guys want me to do that video comparing the Inovus i88 to the Donner DEP-20, let me know. I've got both of them here at the studio. If that sounds like something you want me to do, let me know also in the comments, and I will do that. Before we get on with a review of the Inovus i88, the final thing I wanted to mention is that if you want to support the channel and help me purchase instruments for myself, like I almost always do, you might want to go check out my Patreon page. It's a really great place where you're able to donate some little some help to me if you want. Just go and check that out if you want, and if you feel like it, you can totally feel free to join that. I also post really cool behind-the-scenes stuff about things that are coming in and just interesting equipment that I have that I haven't made videos of yet. So if you want a little sneak peek at what's coming up in the future on the channel, you might want to subscribe and join that as well. So, the Inovus i88. What is it? Well, as I said, it's a sub $400 digital piano. It's really a $400 digital piano, but because the price on Amazon is $399.99, technically it's sub $400. So what sort of features and what sort of things do you get for the price point? Well, as always, I like to start off my videos by talking about the visual side of things and the physical side of things, and then dive into the playing aspect. So that's what we're going to do here. And the first thing I wanted to do is talk about the damper pedal, because that, I think, is something that is possibly the most interesting. Commonly, with beginner-friendly priced digital pianos, you often get a very inadequate damper pedal. Usually it's a little square or rectangular plastic bit that you put on the floor and you push with your foot, and it crawls all over the floor like some kind of a giant insect. The pedal that comes with the Inovus is most certainly not that. It's an actual pedal, which is excellent. There's a few other instruments that come with a pedal like this, but the Inovus is a little bit special. So like I said, it's not the only instrument in this price bracket that comes with a pedal like this. However, what makes it special is the connector on the end. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is not a 1/4-inch jack like we always see with digital piano pedals. And it's also not the mini jack connector that you see with really cheap, really garbage digital pianos, which those are pretty bad. This is something really special. This is a DIN connector, which is the same sort of DIN connector that a lot of higher-end instruments will use to connect a triple pedal unit. Now, I haven't tried this out for myself because I don't have these pedals here at the studio, but I've been told that a triple pedal unit that will work with Roland, Casio, or Yamaha will also work with the Inovus i88. So if you have a triple pedal unit, or if you want to purchase a triple pedal unit for your Inovus i88, those are the ones to get, and this, I think, is the only instrument in this price category that is able to do that, that has that connection, which I think is really, really fantastic. Now, I was talking through via email with someone from Inovus named Shane, and he tells me that Inovus is thinking about scrapping the whole DIN connection as a whole and replacing it with your more standard quarter-inch jack. And I get the logic, because some people might be confused by this, and if they want to get a better replacement pedal, they can't get a single pedal unit, because I've never seen a single pedal unit that uses this connector. But what I think that Inovus should do is, instead of scrapping this and replacing it, they should just add a quarter-inch damper pedal in. I think that would be very, very helpful and very useful, because then you could buy perhaps some aftermarket single pedal unit, or you could buy an aftermarket triple pedal unit and use either or with the Inovus. And also they'd be able to probably send it with a more normal, less custom damper pedal, because I assume that a single pedal unit that uses one of these DIN connectors is probably a little bit odd. I've certainly never seen one before. As far as visual aesthetics are concerned, in the sub $400 price category, the Inovus i88 is the undisputed king. I think this instrument looks absolutely fantastic for its price point, and I'd even go as far to say is that even comparing it against instruments in the $600 price category, this instrument still looks pretty good. I don't think it looks terribly cheap. I actually think it looks really nice, and interestingly enough, it actually kind of has a really interesting blend of like a bunch of different manufacturers. Let me explain. For example, the user interface with these round buttons with white LEDs around them is very reminiscent to me of Kawai's new ES520 and ES920. This music desk here, which I like very much, by the way, is very reminiscent of certain Roland music desks they used to use in their past with some of their student models and stuff. On the Roland versions, it was a clear piece of plastic here, but other than that, it was the exact same design, where these are actually two different pieces of plastic that are somehow fused together. The build quality of this is excellent, and it's very sturdy, and it's also very wide, which I really like. It also does a great job of holding your music, so I can, for example, grab this. There you go. Holding my music. The speaker grills, the shape of them is very reminiscent of the ones in the Alesis Recital Pro, with that kind of the little angled point coming on over here. The corner and the edges of this instrument are rounded, which is vaguely reminiscent to me of the Korg SV1 and SV2. So it's just like this really interesting blend of all these different little subtle things from all these different manufacturers coming together to create the Inovus i88. So I don't know if all of that just happened to be by chance or if any of that was intentional. But regardless of whether it was or wasn't, I think it all came together to create a very nice looking instrument. Not only does it look nice, it also feels pretty nice as well. The plastic doesn't feel as cheap as you might think. It actually has a really nice, kind of like a smooth, velvety finish to it, which sounds really weird, I know, but it feels nice. And the front panel here, the front little bit doesn't really have that much flex to it. It feels sturdy. The underside of it is relatively rigid, especially, it's a $400 instrument. The underside is very rigid, and as a whole, the build quality of this feels sturdy. It's also pretty light as well, so it's quite portable, and it's slim, too. It's very slim. A lot of the times, slim digital pianos will have, a bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for? Compromises. And the only compromises this has is simply because it's $400, not necessarily because it's so slim. A common compromise with slim digital pianos is the action, and although this action isn't flawless, it's pretty dang close for the price point. So the only flaw, I'd say, is that it's a little bit light, so if you were to purchase this instrument and learn how to play the piano on it, and then, say, for example, go to your teacher's house and play on their piano, you might have a bit of a learning curve and a slight struggle, because an acoustic piano's action will certainly be heavier than this action, so there will be some learning curve there. However, with that lightness issue aside, the action feels really great, and probably the most impressive thing about it is how consistent it is from front to back of the key. I've seen much more expensive digital pianos, almost twice as much as this instrument, struggle with this. So on a real piano, you have a very long key, and because of this, you can actually play pretty much anywhere on the key, and it will feel just about the same. On digital pianos, you can have this effect to varying degrees of success. Typically, the cheaper you go, the less this feature will be there. But with the Inovus, you can play right into the back of the key, and it will still feel just about the same as the front of the key. Now, I don't know if Inovus designed this action or if they outsourced it from another company, but whoever designed this action, I think, did a stellar job for the price point, because even both the black and the white keys are consistent within and of themselves, and as well as being consistent within and of each key within itself as well. So from the front to the back of the key, it feels very, very consistent. The white keys get a little heavier towards the back than the black keys do, but even then it's not that big of a deal, and it's hardly noticeable at all. So that, I think, is probably the most impressive part about the Inovus i88, is that action. Now, it's not a graded action, so the bass notes aren't heavier than the top notes. I'm not sure how important that is with the digital piano. It is a feature in real acoustic pianos, but I'm not entirely sure how important it is with a digital piano. So I'm not sure how much you're really missing out with there. What else is there to talk about? Well, honestly, so far I've been telling you about all the things I like about the Inovus, but of course nothing can be perfect. And there are a few things that are both subpar for the price category and a little bit less so. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the sounds, and we'll get to what they actually sound like in a little bit, and you'll hear this for yourself, but the sounds are pretty par for the course. They're nothing phenomenal, they're nothing terrible, they're just right down the middle and right average. Now, I believe that Inovus is working on creating either an updated version of the i88 or perhaps a higher-end model. I just have a funny feeling that they might be doing that, which might be why they're sending this to me to get some extra feedback. So if they do create a higher-end version of this, I'd love to see less but higher quality sounds. That's what I'd really like in a higher-end Inovus instrument. Because the sounds in here, you'll hear them in a bit, they are just pretty average. Also, in regards to the sound, the speakers are also could use some work. Now, they have plenty of volume. That's not the problem. And in fact, even at high volumes, they don't have very much distortion at all, which is really good. However, the problem comes in the fact that when you have it on its maximum volume and you play loudly, especially with the default piano sound, but others too, it actually hurts. Like, it is bright, and it is thin, and it is loud. Now, if you're using it with headphones, that's not a problem, because the problem is the speakers, not the actual tones themselves. And if you just turn the volume down a bit and then choose to play loud, the problem is gone. So these speakers are quite shrill, and I would like to see them have a more fat, a more round tone. Again, I mentioned earlier that I'll be making a comparison of this versus the Donner. I'm going to keep comparisons out of today's video, but I just wanted to mention that the Donner had really nice speakers, and I liked them. So if Donner can do it, so can Inovus. So I think the speakers could use some work. And the final thing I wanted to talk about is the small little screen. Now, it's not necessarily the screen that is the problem, or the size of it. It is the screen, but it's not necessarily the size of it that's the problem. It's actually the screen itself and the quality. So when I'm sitting back here like this, all of the colors are inverted. The background is pale and the text is dark. If I lean in a little bit like this, they're the same color and I can't read the text at all. And if I lean in like this, now the background is dark like it's supposed to be, and the text is light colored like it's supposed to be, and I can read it just perfectly fine. So if Inovus was to use a screen that has better viewing angles, that would be optimal, but the simpler and cheaper approach would simply be to take this screen and just build something around it so that it can sit up at an angle. So if the screen is right now sitting like this, if they just tilt it up like this, problem would probably be 80% gone, because then you can sit at a normal angle and you can actually see it. There's also some small text at the bottom of the screen that gets hidden by this large bezel. So if they could get rid of that bezel as well, that problem would also be alleviated. Now, yes, a bigger or better screen would be ideal, but for this price category, a lot of these instruments don't even have a screen. So the fact that you have a screen and you have a menu is somewhat a bit of a luxury. I just think it could use a little bit of improvement to make it be ever better. With all of the visual stuff out of the way, I think it's a good idea to check out the audio side of things. So let's check out how the Inovus sounds, and we'll play some music on it and let you guys hear it for yourself. So here's a closer up view of the Inovus i88, and take a look at that user interface. If that doesn't look like a Kawai ES920, 520, I don't know what does. But nonetheless, it is actually a very nice user interface, much like the one on the Kawai ES920 and 520. Not as refined, of course, for $400 US, but it definitely does work well. And there's quite a few features in here that I wanted to talk about. You have a Bluetooth functionality over here, so you can actually use this as a Bluetooth speaker. It says in the manual you can use these buttons to interact with the device that is broadcasting Bluetooth. That doesn't seem to work, at least not with YouTube, but maybe it does work with some, music player app or something. You've also got a basic record function here. You've got a demo function. You've got a menu system here. You can change tones or rhythms, and then over here you have all of your rhythm stuff, except for this button, which is your function button. So everything over here is rhythm stuff. You've got your metronome, which is a metronome. You've also got some drum beats and chord stuff, and I'll get into that in a little bit later. Something I like, and something I don't like. Something I don't like is that there's a few little features hidden in the keys, but it's not a big deal in this instrument because it has so many features in the user interface, and you don't have to hold the function button down. If I want to turn off the reverb, there we go, reverb's off. I want to turn on the chorus, there you go, chorus is on. Turn off chorus, turn on reverb. I can do all that one-handed and just have to hit the function button once, which I think is a lot nicer than having to hold the function button down and push these buttons. Also, what's nice is that these keys that have functionalities to them aren't things you're going to be using on a daily basis, most likely. Turning on and off dual voice, turning on and off split voice, and turning on and off percussion, which turns all your keys into a drum kit, that's probably not really going to be something you're going to be using every day. Not like switching sounds and things like that. So although I don't like the idea of having features hidden in the keys with button press, key press combinations, in this particular instrument, it's executed pretty well. So I approve of that. Well, let's check out how this instrument sounds, shall we? Let's just dive right into it and check out the default acoustic piano sound 000 grand piano. Let's play some stuff on it here. So that's the sound of the default piano in the Inovus i88. And as you can hear, it's not horrible, but it's also nothing incredible either. One thing that's interesting is that although I said I don't like the sound of the speakers, they seem to be tuned specifically for this range, maybe this range, of the acoustic piano sound, because in the treble, in real life, this actually sounds like a more expensive instrument. It sounds really good for this range of the treble. So it's possible Inovus may have tuned these speakers to really bring out the treble, which, if that's true, they did an excellent job. But it's lacking the bass, and it has a bit too much punch in a sense. It also has a bit too much punch in the sense that the touch velocity is set to a little bit too sensitive, in my personal opinion, straight out of the box. But fortunately, that's a very easy fix, because this instrument has a nice menu system. And I say nice, it's not perfect, and it's also a little difficult to see the screen. But the fact that it has a menu that is as detailed and as involved as it is for the price point is pretty great. So if you go to the touch sensitivity setting in the menu, and all you got to do is it's defaulted to the value of 2. If you just hit this button, which, wait, wrong button, hit this button, which brings it down to the value of 1, now the instrument feels a lot more tame, and you're not going to be having these notes that sometimes will pop out and be a little bit too loud. You may have heard that in the treble test piece, especially when I came down into the lower register. Some of the notes, in my opinion, were a little bit louder than I would have liked them to be. Putting it on touch sensitivity setting 1, however, makes it a lot more round, and just, you can still play loud, but you have to actually dig in to make it play loud, and that feels a lot more natural. So my personal opinion, I think it should come out of the box as touch sensitivity setting 1 versus 2, but that's just my personal preference, and that's just what I thought. Also, within the menu settings, you also have the ability to change the reverb and the chorus level. You have a reverb and a chorus setting here. Now, these aren't particularly good reverb or chorus settings. For $400, you can't expect that much, but nonetheless, the fact that you are able to customize that and add and subtract it from being there, I think is pretty neat. I'm not even sure I've seen a instrument that allows you to customize how much reverb there is. Usually it's just like reverb on or off, not like you can come in here and customize the decay length of it. So that's pretty cool. Something else I wanted to mention here that some people actually will like to mention in my videos is sometimes people will ask if I EQ the instrument that I'm reviewing? And the answer to that is no. Even when I'm making recordings over in Milan Recording Studios, I like never EQ the acoustic piano. It just doesn't need it. And so that's the same here. I never EQ the digital piano that I'm reviewing. So what you're hearing is the true direct line output. Speaking of direct line output, if Inovus does make a higher end version of this with nicer tones, like I'm hoping they may, a proper direct line output with a proper, a true left and right stereo output on the back would be really ideal. This instrument doesn't have it. Essentially, you have two headphone jacks in the front, 2 1/4-inch headphone jacks. I think they're both 1/4-inch, yep. And then you've got like a third one on the back, and that's your direct out. And it does work. That's what I'm using in today's video. But a proper direct line output, especially if you had higher quality tones, would be a nice touch. Let's explore some of the other sounds of the Inovus. It's got 199 to be precise. Some of the later ones are sound effects like these. That's supposed to be a door. This is a horse. But you've also got lots of musical tones in here too, so I'm going to be running through a few of those. I'm going to skip past the other piano variants. They're not that great in my opinion. And we're going to start off with the Electric Piano 1, which is a type of a Rhodes sort of an emulation. We'll check out how that sounds right now. Unfortunately, it's a very flat and static type of a sound. It doesn't have any of that Rhodes punch or bark to it, but the tone of it is actually pretty pleasant to listen to. The tone of this next one, Electric Piano 2, is very interesting. It's kind of a Yamaha DX type sound, and there's an interesting, like a synth sawtooth waveform that comes in after the note ages. It's very strange. Take a listen. It's actually a really cool sound. I just don't think it's supposed to be there. So we'll demonstrate the Electric Piano 2, and we'll just play a little bit on here and let you guys see what it sounds like. Up next is a harpsichord sound. This is also a clavinet sound. Something genuinely impressive about this instrument is that it has seamless sound switching. So when you play a tone, hold the pedal down, and change to the next tone, the previous tone sustains until you begin playing the next tone. I have seen instruments that cost well over $1,500 that can't do seamless sound switching. So I don't know why some cheap instruments can, but expensive ones can't, but nonetheless, this instrument can, which I guess is pretty cool. Up next is Celesta sound, which is actually pretty decent. And of course, it sounds really funny in the lower registers. This next tone is the glockenspiel. And the tone after that is the music box, which actually sounds really good in the lower register. That music box tone is totally one of my favorite sounds on this instrument, and it's a lot of fun to play with. I don't think it's meant to be played that way, but you can, and it sounds pretty cool. You've also got a few other pitch percussion instruments, vibraphone, xylophone, things of that nature. You've also got some organ tones in here as well. This is a Hammond organ sound. I have heard worse Hammond organ sounds. You've also got percussion organ. Then you have rock organ. And there's church organs. And there's many, many other types of organ variations. I'm only on sound number 20 here, and we've got reed organs and things like this. I'm just going to skip through and show a few of my other favorite sounds in here. I'm only going to go up to about 40-something or other. You got a bunch of guitar sounds in here too. I'm kind of scrolling past those, but I think we'll pause on a couple of them. Let's try the guitar clean tone. We've also got jazz guitar. So the guitar sounds are actually pretty decent for a digital piano. You've also got some bass sounds in here too. You got acoustic bass, fig bass, figured bass. I don't know what that would stand for. Finger bass probably. So there's the acoustic bass here. Coming through the speakers, the only thing I'm getting is the treble end of that. But the direct line signal shows that there's actually a bit more bass there to that. One of my other favorite bass sounds in here is actually the contrabass sound, which is on sound 43. It's actually pretty decent. Of course, it's not going to fool anyone into thinking it's a real contrabass, but it's actually fun to play with, and surprisingly the tone is good throughout much of the register. It sounds good in the bass, and even up in the treble, it sounds like a string instrument, which is pretty cool. There's also some slap bass sounds in here, and synth bass. Let's try a couple of those. Those can be fun. And that's up to about 40 or so of the sounds of the Inovus. There's not really a lot to say with the tones in this instrument because they're pretty par for the course. There's nothing phenomenal here for the price point, but at the same time, there's nothing terrible here either. There's nothing to really poke fun at. It's a pretty solid instrument for the price point, and I think it's definitely going to be great for beginners. You can have a lot of fun with these extra tones, or stay serious and play with the acoustic piano sound. Here's some strings. I'm gonna be honest, those are actually a bit worse than I had thought they would be. Let's try the function dual voice and layer. Wait, how does this work? Am I layering strings with strings here? I think I might be. Let's go to the piano sound and see if we can play with the. Oh, I can't hold this button down. Oh, I can. Okay, 20, 10. Here we go. Let's see how this layering function works. Let's try to layer the acoustic piano with the strings. That should do it. So you have the dual voice function, which is pretty cool. You've also got the split voice functionality as well, which splits the keyboard into two halves. So you've got strings on one half and you've got the piano on the other side. And that also is pretty neat. A lot of times people will use that to have some fun. I'm assuming that there's some way you can change the each half to be something different. But to be honest, I didn't actually look in the owner's manual to see how to do that. Dual mode and split mode aren't really things I use all that often. So for me, that's not really a priority. But for other people, it probably is, though, to be honest with you. The percussion mode here on the keys, like I said, turns every key into drums, and there's some tiny text at the bottom of the screen that says drum to indicate that you're in drums mode. So that, I'm sure, is quite fun. And then you also have the chord functionality. Now, there's a few functions here of the Inovus that a lot of other digital pianos for this price point don't have. One of those I've already mentioned is the triple pedal unit. The other ones here would be the auto accompaniment features and the Bluetooth, both of which I'm going to get to in a second here. I also mentioned that the reverb and the chorus, being able to customize the depth of those, also isn't something I've personally seen before in an instrument of this price point. So the chord arranger here, this is how it works. Basically, you just hit the chord on and off, and what that will do is it will turn the left hand of your instrument into chords. So you've got all varieties of seventh chords in there and all that sort of stuff, so that's pretty neat. And then you can also hit you can tap and hold this button, which sync starts, so as soon as I start playing, it will add in some drum beat and add in some extra instruments, and then you can just kind of vibe with the piano and just have some fun. So let's do that here. So that's basically that. You've also got some auto fills as well. So if you were doing the drums and you hit these buttons, it would do a little fill in. The fills seem to be kind of slow, and the intro definitely seems to be slow, but nothing else in this price category has that. So if you wanted to learn how to, say, for example, do a solo over a chord progression or something of that nature, this would be helpful. And if you just wanted to have fun, this would also be helpful. Now, it seems to me that the accompaniment volume is a bit loud compared to the instrument itself. Like what I'm playing up here seemed a bit loud compared to the accompaniment, or seemed quiet compared to the accompaniment. But that's probably just a simple tweak in the settings for Inovus to do. I don't think I have that control in the menu here. Let me go through here and see. Rhythm volume, maybe I do. Does rhythm volume change the volume of the chords? It was set it to 127. Now I'm going to put it at 90 and see if that... Maybe? Let's put it at like 10 and see if it's noticeably like really quiet. I'm actually really interested now. Okay, it's at 26. Ah, okay, I do have that control. I didn't think that rhythm volume would also control the volume of the chords. So never mind, I take that back. You can't actually change the volume of that. So although it's not perfect, you can have some fun with it, and it is pretty cool, and I'm very glad that you actually can go in there and change the volume. Of that. Maybe it should be better if it said accompaniment volume and not rhythm volume, but nonetheless, it's there, and that's really good that it is there. Finally, let's check out the Bluetooth functionality, because you can actually use this as a Bluetooth instrument. So what I'm going to be doing is queuing up a video here on YouTube that I recorded with a friend of mine. This video here is his original song called Power, and we recorded it at the studio. So if you like how this sounds, go check out the video. That'll be on my second channel of Milan Recording Studios, and let's hear how it sounds through here.
When I see you, the worlds collide. My heart melts away, and then I'm alright. When you look at me, the stars all die. Fall and burn to dust. They watch and cry.
So that's a little demo there of both the internal speakers and the Bluetooth function. I had no problems at all using the Bluetooth. On some digital pianos, like the Kawais, which it reminds me of, the user interface here, you actually have to go into the menu to turn on Bluetooth pairing mode, and then you can couple your phone or your device to the instrument. With this one here, it's just always in pairing mode, which is actually kind of nice. I like that you don't have to dive into a menu. To pair up the Bluetooth. Now, as you heard, what you heard just now is was my microphones recording the internal speakers. And so as you can hear, they do sound rather thin, but you could use this as Bluetooth, you know, just for fun, to have background music, all that stuff. But that does give you an idea of what the internal speakers do sound like. And if you liked what you heard, definitely go check out the original version over on Milan Recording Studios, because these speakers, unfortunately, aren't quite doing it justice. However, it does have that Bluetooth mode, which I don't think anything else in this price bracket actually has, which is pretty cool. And I think, as a whole, I think this is actually quite a nice instrument for a beginning pianist. Is it perfect? No. But does it have to be perfect for a beginning pianist? Probably not. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review of the Inovus i88, which is the first digital piano that has arrived at the studio and that I've made a video on that I have not actually paid for, which I think is really, really interesting. This Inovus 88, like I said just a second ago, is not perfect. I think it definitely could use some improvements. However, for the price point that this instrument is at, I think that it actually is very competitive with the other instruments that are in its price class. These improvements I'm suggesting making, for example, making the action a bit heavier, having better tones, better speakers, would I think be more fitting for a $600 version of the i88 rather than improvements to the i88 itself. And so I feel like the Inovus i88, as it stands right now, is quite competitive, and I think, without a doubt, the best looking digital piano in its price class. I still sit here and look at it, and I don't think $400 digital piano. I sit here and I think $600 digital piano. Now, these little weird little things on here don't really look amazing, the little M icons and stuff, but with those out of the way, everything else about it looks really, really fantastic. The little glittery, shiny Inovus logo, all that stuff, it all looks really great. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this review of the Inovus i88. If you did, you might want to go check out my channel. And by the way, I've got a really cool video coming up in the future, pretty soon, of the boutique, I don't want to say handcrafted because I'm not sure it is, but it's a really boutique, it's a niche instrument for a very specific market of keyboardists, and it's a digital instrument, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But it's a really fantastic instrument, and it's something I've been wanting for over a year. I've just never purchased it because it's very high end, and it just showed up at the studio for free, which is incredible. So we're going to be checking that out in the future as well, and of course giving it an honest, unbiased review. That manufacturer also asked for me to do the videos that only I can produce online. So what we'll be doing in the future is checking that out, but for now I'm going to be signing off of this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did and you're not already subscribed, you might want to think about subscribing, because I do lots of cool videos of acoustic pianos, electric pianos, both from the very, very cheap to the very, very expensive, coming soon. So with all of that out of the way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.